we have these Chinese cartels that have moved here in the state of Maine that will be stopped day one with David Jones as governor. We're supposed to protect our citizens. And if I can't do it with the PD, sheriff, and state troopers, then we're going to use the National Guard to clean up these spots, these areas, everywhere I go. Fentanyl, mental illness. Sheriffs, they arrest them, and then 24 hours out on the street.
You know, you remove the Bible, nobody knows scripture, you remove civics, nobody understands their rights, and so people just run wreck shop on the entire system. All right, welcome back to the Rice Report, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us here. I'm Eric Rice, your host, of course, where we talk about the three things you're never supposed to talk about in public: money, politics, and religion. It's still odd to me that people don't do that. If you like what we're saying here, please feel free to subscribe and share. I'm being reminded daily to do that. So please continue to share these videos, to watch these videos, to absorb them, to take some of the information from it, do your own research on everything, of course. But it is so great to have a guest today who is doing something many people want to do, never actually will do. And we probably need more people doing in all reality. So today we are joined by David Jones, who is running for governor of Maine. This is a state you hear very little about unless you read Stephen King novels, and it is a state that has tremendous problems, both politically, socially, and economically, and we need some change in that state because it's one of the 50 in our country. So please, everybody, welcome David Jones here today. How are you, David?
Fantastic. How are you doing today, Eric?
I'm doing great. You're on this brave road right now. Tell us how the campaign is going.
Well, we got a lot of momentum behind us, a lot of traction, what I'm saying. People, know that I have a pulse on what Maine really needs. I've been involved in Maine politics for about 20 years, never held an office. This is and I've never had a job. So this is my first job interview that I've ever had in my life. But Maine's definitely got some problems. We have a government that just doesn't do what people want, and it's just gotten so bad that now David Jones is throwing a hat in the ring, because I'm that guy I think that can get it done and fix what's got to be fixed. And we have some serious issues. Energy costs are through the roof. Unemployment. We've got businesses don't want to invest in the state. Property taxes through the roof. They seem to come up with taxes over tax, and so people are tired. And no matter where I travel in the state, they are absolutely, they want to give me hugs and thank me for going. And, this was not a path that I ever envisioned myself going down. I've always been a kind of a private guy behind the scenes, but, I've accumulated a lot of knowledge about the state of Maine and the things that need to be done. And I was prompted by quite a few people, including my grandkids, and they're like, Papa, we want you to be governor. So 5-year-old tells you that, you got to listen. But no, we're moving ahead really strong. Things are looking really, really good.
That's great. Yeah. So Maine has much bigger problems than that as well. There's cartel problems there. And by the way, for those who haven't been, Maine is one of the most beautiful states in the country. It really is gorgeous. Lush land, great forestry, great hiking, just a great place to go. Tell us what's going on. I know Tucker Carlson did an episode on this with a whistleblower. What are some of these crime issues? People don't associate crime or cartels with the state of Maine, but it's a reality. What's going on with that?
Well, Tucker did a piece with Steve Robinson, who was the Maine Wire, and it was very informative, and it got a lot of traction because it should. We have these Chinese cartels that have moved here in the state of Maine, and let me say this, that while we have this as a problem that needs to be stopped and will be stopped day one with David Jones as governor, Maine's still an incredibly safe place to live.
Oh, absolutely. One of the safest.
We have these pockets that needed to be cleaned up. And I think it's just a matter of giving the PDs, the sheriffs, and the state troopers the green light to go ahead and do it. For whatever reason, I don't understand this current governor not jumping all over the attorney general. I mean, my God, Attorney Fry. Why are they turning a blind eye? There's been so much, I guess, conspiracy or conjecture about, her brother doing the title and selling these properties to the Chinese people. I would be like Sarah Huckabee Sanders. You're out of here. You're not going to own property here. That's all there is to it. And they're going to clean the place up. And if I can't do it with the PD, sheriff, and state troopers, then we're going to use the National Guard to clean up these spots, these areas they're a problem. There's no reason we should have those Chinese cartels operating here in the state of Maine. This is the most beautiful state in the country. I mean, we have everything you could ever ask for, except for a government that just doesn't do what we need it to do. And it's sad, honestly, Eric. You think about it. Why is it that we are turning a blind eye to these things? I just don't understand it. I've toured all the jail or correction centers here in the state of Maine. 7 out of the 13 of them that I spoke with several of the sheriffs throughout the state, and we're going to hit all 13 of them here in the state of Maine. But it's one common denominator is drugs, fentanyl. Everywhere I go, fentanyl, mental illness, and so the sheriff's correction centers are acting as facilities, in and out facilities, basically, because I think that the judicial system's it needs to be worked on a little bit too, because they arrest them and then 24 hours out on the street, and that's not what's supposed to happen. We're supposed to protect our citizens, right? And and I think that they're being, their hands are tied in many cases because of the red tapes that have been put in place. And so I think we just get down to, this is the Maine Constitution, this is the United States Constitution, this is the law of the land, and we're going to enforce it. And you come here with drugs, you're done. You're out of here, right? If you operate illegal pot grows in the state of Maine, you're done. Out of here the next day. So it's just a matter of leadership, really. And it should not be going on. It just shouldn't be happening here. This is, like I said, a beautiful, beautiful place. I got 6 kids. I got 8 grandchildren. They're all here in Maine. And I want them to be able to go and enjoy the state of Maine without any question in their mind about whether they're safe or not. And that's my goal here as governor, to make sure that we make Maine great again.
Good. Yeah, there's not a single citizen on planet Earth in any country that advocates for violent criminals getting out of jail in 24 hours. I haven't found one. I know that we hear about it on TV, but I have yet to meet a single actual human being throughout the entire country who believes in that. How hard is that legislation going to be to get through to make these changes? That's kind of the question I think everyone have.
Well, I think executive order can do a lot, and then we got to make it law. But, so, we're going to go through, and hopefully I have the House, the Senate, and the governorship. And if we do that, then we have ignition. We can really get the things done. But as a governor, I have executive order, and I have powers that I can exercise. But, without making them law, then the next person come in can reverse it again. We've seen it nationally. What happened with President Trump the first time, and then Biden gets in and reversed everything he did. Now, President Trump, amen, is back in there, and he's doing what I've elected him to do. So, we got to make it law. And so we're working hard to get, the House, the Senate, and the governorship all in one fell swoop. We get that trifecta, and then it's easy. If you don't have that, then it's, a give and take. And how much do you have to give? I'm all about reasonable, negotiations. But if it compromises the principle and the ideology you're trying to, accomplish, then you just can't. You'll agree to disagree. But hopefully, all my life I've negotiated with people on both sides of the fence, and I've always been able to get to a common ground.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about your background.
What's that?
Tell us a little bit about your background.
Yeah, well,
you never had a job before, so it made me curious.
Isn't that funny, huh? All right. Well, it's true. All right. So I started my own company when I was 17 years old. I was in the construction business, and I built my company up from me. I come from very meager means. My mom was a waitress. My dad was a bartender, machinist. He was a 12-year war veteran, Bronze Star. Really, great guy. The whole family's been good. I have 5 brothers. I have 6 kids of my own. And then, like I said, I have 8 grandkids. But I was in the construction business, and I built it up to a really good-sized company. At peak, we had about 1,100 people on the payroll. And that started from just me and my brother and a couple of kids and friends, and then went from 20 to 30 to 50 to 100. And, I started building single-family homes, and it was the easiest, low-hanging fruit. And then I got my Class A GC general contractor's license in Florida, and I think at 26. And I started building mid-rises and then low-rises and then high-rises and shopping centers and malls. I built tens of thousands of units, and it's the American dream. I mean, really, because you got a guy from, very meager means that works his tail off and then ends up with a company of that size. And, I always say the only difference between me and my friends is I went to the bank and they went to the bar. All right. And, I did hang out with them once in a while and have a good time because a lot of them were friends. But, when you have that structure, you have 1,100 people that you keep busy. That's just hourly people. And then we had subcontractors on top of that. So, you could have 2, 3, 4,000 people on any given day that are working for you. So I built, things all over Florida, resorts. I did the Disney Caribbean Beach Resort in Orlando, Williams Island, Fisher Island. I don't know if you've been to the Gardens Mall was 1,000,000 square feet. So yeah, I've built quite a bit of stuff. And for a guy that grew up with nothing to have all these toys, cranes and trucks and, everything else, it was fun. And for me, it was just a lot of fun. But I didn't go to college, as you might have figured out, because I started my company, and it just took me. Life is something that happens while you make plans for the future, right?
That's right.
But that was where I was meant to be, and so I got married, and I've been married 40 years, and I have a great family, great life, and like I said before, this was not a path that David Jones had. Oh, I want to be governor. I want to be governor now because I know I can get the job done. I'm the right guy to do the job. But it's, really, it's a big move in life when you run for public office. And I've been doing a radio show for about 20 years. It's a conservative talk show with my buddy Ray Richardson. And, you go there and you tell people every day, get up off the couch, go vote, get on the school board, get on the town council, run for, state senate, run for the House of Representatives. And you're telling these people to do it all the time. And then one day they say to you, hey, well, you've been telling me to do all this. Well, why don't you do something? And so, and I always supported the candidates. I created a super PAC in 2016 called Making Maine Great Again. It was to get President Trump elected here in Maine. It was pretty much the Trump campaign for Maine. And I came 22,000 votes away from turning the state red in 16.
Wow.
Right, which was amazing. But I didn't do it alone. It wasn't just David running out there buying thousands of signs. I assembled a team of people who wanted to see Trump get elected, and we spread the signs out, had an effort. It was a concerted effort of many people from all over the state, and we came this close, 22,000 votes away from turning our state red. So, and then we know what happened. We know what happened in 2020, and we won't get into that one. But then in 2024, I got involved again. And, I was, in 2020, I actually sued the governor of the state of Maine for violating our rights, our constitutional rights on COVID. I sued him before that for ranked choice voting. Naturally, we lost, but the idea was not, we knew we wouldn't win, but we wanted to make sure that the shot was fired across the bow to let them know that, look, there's people paying attention. You're hurting people. It didn't matter because she continued to do whatever she wanted anyway. And then in 2024, Trump picked me to be on the Republican National Platform Committee. And that was nice. One of 100 people from across the country out of 340 million people. I always thought, well, why me? And so, and then I was a delegate in 16 and in 24. And so now, here I am today running for governor. I had something really interesting happen to me in August. I had dinner with Charlie Kirk, and we just hit it off. I mean, it was funny how we got along. And, we were talking about some pretty interesting stuff. And he stopped me. He said, so where'd you go to college? And I said, well, I didn't go to college. He goes, oh, I said, no, I went to the Italian university called What's the Matter You? He, said, he liked it too and started laughing and said, well, I didn't go to college either. And so then from that moment on, we really got along really well. And we were talking ideas.
Did he finish the lyric and say, shut up or you face? Did he finish
shut
that?
Up, you looking at me? Right. And so we got along really well, shook hands, and then went, parted ways, took some photos. And I didn't think I'd ever see him again. Then Monday I get a call right after the event, and he invited me out to Colorado. And so I jumped on a plane, and me and my campaign manager, David Boyer, we flew to Colorado and hung out with Charlie and all of his associates. They were amazing, amazing people. It was just, it's incredible. That was at the very end of August is when it was. And then we're at the dinners 2 nights in a row, and he would stop in what he's doing. And I still don't get this and what the reason was, what his motivation was. But he'd stop and say, my buddy from Maine is here. And the whole crowd of people, what he called investors, would stop and applaud and that kind of thing. He did that 2 nights in a row, and I thought, wow, that's pretty interesting. Charlie Kirk, a great young man, and then a week later he was dead. They assassinated him, and it's like, come on, you young people don't have a voice. And, I've always been an advocate for younger people being involved in politics and getting them to vote and to get involved and understand the Constitution, know what civics is all about. And I just even before I was running, I got involved with so many young people trying to get them into Maine politics. And today, many of them are leaders within the state of Maine. So, we got a good.
We're not even here in Texas. We actually just got back to doing constitutional classes, so kids actually learn the United States and the Texas Constitution in school. But that was irrelevant for 40 years.
I know.
Stop teaching civics. I mean, it's one of those things where you remove the Bible, nobody knows Scripture. You remove civics, nobody understands their rights. And then you find yourself in a position where nobody really knows what's supposed to happen. So people just run wreck shop on the entire system. And that has to be something we change there. What would you do about that as governor in Maine? What would you institute? I don't even know what the pull you would be with the education people.
Oh, I'd have a lot of pull. The commissioner of education is an appointed position. And the one we have here now, Pender Macon, she'd be gone like in a heartbeat. As soon as I, out of there. I would appoint an education commissioner that I would have faith in that would understand, that we're supposed to, teach these kids life skills that are going to be through them. I want to, make sure we have vocational training in the state of Maine, because if it wasn't for vocational training, I wouldn't be who I am today.
Yep.
I would not have been able to do what I did, but they taught me how to use my brain and my hands at the same time. And I thought, well, this is great. This is what's got to happen here. We got to let people know that the American dream is alive and that it's not dead, like they're trying to make people believe. We got to get rid of the DEI and the SEL and the CRT. I have a granddaughter that's in school in Falmouth, and I'm at my rope's end with this because of all the ridiculous stuff that they're reading to my child. It just makes me sick to my stomach about little boys wearing girls' dresses, about different kinds of love. I mean, what point does it, for what reason could they ever say to me that a kindergarten child needs to know about this?
It's satanic.
It is satanic. There's something wrong. These people, they say it's evil. And what's it take for evil to succeed? For
good men to do nothing.
To do nothing, right? And that's where we're at. I mean, I can't believe I have pictures in my phone that were sent to me, and of course, I'm not just sitting on my hands waiting for something to happen. But I'm going to do something about it. But not the average person won't. It's become a generally accepted practice within the schools, and to a point because now some of the parents are, have been, we got, woke people raising woke children now with a woke school, right? And so it's just wrong. Title IX is really big up here in Maine. I went and gave a couple speeches at 2 school board meetings, and RSU 24, we flipped it, and they went back to the original Title IX it was supposed to be, with no boys and girls sports, right?
That's ridiculous. Like, where did that idea ever come from? Like, it's just the sports. Like, leave sports alone.
Well, how
long did women fight for their own sports leagues? And then you're going to put men in it.
You got it. Where are they? Where are the women's rights groups? They're just laying back and saying that's okay. We're going to let some guy who thinks he's a girl, who obviously has a physical advantage over the girls, take away the scholarships or the wins that they've worked for their entire life.
Yeah.
I just don't believe we're having the conversation.
So how is the race going right now, Daniel? Like, where are you at in the polls, and how's that going right? And when is the election?
Well, okay, so right now we're in a primary.
Yeah.
Right. So the primary doesn't happen until June. There's been no polls of any consequence.
Too early.
It's too early. But they know who I am. I mean, I've got a pretty good voice, with 20 years on the radio. I own F.O. Bailey Real Estate. It's a 206-year-old company here in Maine. It's been around before 200? Maine was 206. Yeah, 1819. Wow. 1 year before Maine became a state is when F.O. Bailey was founded. Yeah. And the water's good. That's why I look as young as I do, right? But
yeah, you're holding up great, David.
It's a great company. I'm the 4th owner in 200 years. And so, when you look at that and you think, okay, people, who's David Jones? you Google me. People go there. They go to my website, which is jones2026.com, and they can, find everything there is to know about David. They can see my interviews with folks like yourself, and then some TV spots and different things that I've done, over the years. So, I mean, it's, the name recognition's there. People like me where I go. For whatever reason, God's given me this ability to talk with people and relate with people. There's really no one that I meet that I don't know, and there's no topic that I can't have a discussion about. I'm willing to talk about anything. I go to a debate, and I think we've had 3, and another 4th one's coming up here pretty soon on November the 11th. But I don't script. I don't practice. Good. I just walk in, and and then I see these other candidates that have got books with tabs in it and notes, and iPads. I'm thinking that should not be allowed. I mean, right. if you don't have it here, and if you don't have it here, you should not be up there. So I'm the only candidate that's unscripted. I think that means a lot. That you ask me a question and get an answer you may not like, but that's my answer.
Sure.
I had somebody.
We need more of that.
What's that?
We need more of that. We need more of people saying what needs to be said, not what people want to hear.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. And I've got some friends that have been in the political realm for quite some time, and they've been very helpful, and just telling me, David, just be who you are. Don't be what you're not. Don't try and be, and just be truthful. And when I get done, people say, the other night we had a debate, which was kind of fun. I don't know if you saw any clips from it, but when I got done, they says, "How Trump? We got Maine has its own Trump, David Jones, right?" So that made me feel good, because look, I've been with Donald Trump on stage at 6 different rallies. I was right behind him each and every time. I watched him work. I watched what he did. I saw how the people related to him, and to me, that's the most important thing. He would talk without teleprompters. He just have a little piece of paper, usually just throw it away and start talking. But everybody in the room felt as if he was talking to them. You know why?
He was.
Yeah. He was. He absolutely was. And I have a cousin who worked for Trump for 27 years. He said, whenever I wanted to find Mr. Trump, I'd go down to where all the guys were working. He'd be right there. That was where he was. Because he relates to. He's a working man's billionaire. I'm not a billionaire. I'm a guy that's worked hard. I have a good life. I'm in a position now where I can run, and it's not going to destroy my life. My income's steady. My assets are good. But I'm all in on this. I just want to do what's best for the state. I think that all the people I've met over the years are just really, really good people, and they've influenced me in the right ways. And I've seen the ones that I didn't like, and I know what I don't like. And look, you want a straight shooting guy that's going to get it done, then you want David Jones. You want someone that's going to say one thing to you today and have a meeting with someone else tomorrow and say something else. Not me. No, not going to. Yeah. I don't answer a question for convenience. I answer a question to give you an answer that has meaning. And, that's, I think, the most important thing. Speak your truth. Tell them who you are.
Yeah. Yeah. There's too many, backdoor meetings that change people. I've met way too many people before they were elected who got elected, went to DC, completely different people in 6 months, almost like they were possessed.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Well, I say what
you don't have to go to DC, so that's a good thing.
Yeah, well, regardless, we go up to Augusta. But I would say what happens, they get elected, they go into the chamber, they release this gas, they forget everything, all the promises they made to all the people that elected them, and then they go and do whatever the hell they want. That's not my MO.
Well, you got to get rid of the Chinese before they put the fentanyl gas in your governor's mansion.
Yeah, right. Or, who knows? I mean, it's not as though, there isn't a danger there from those folks, because they know I get elected, then they're toast. It's no more. Never going to happen. So look, we have laws, and we have laws for a reason. And I tell people, if you don't like the law, elect somebody that's going to change that law for you. But don't sit there and disregard the law. And I think that we've had situations where judges are just not doing what I want them to do, and they disregard that cashless bail. I mean, the officers arrest them, take them in, spend the night processing them, throw them in jail. In the morning, they're popped out with no bond. I mean,
it's ridiculous.
Why? And what about the people they're putting in danger?
Yeah.
Why, what about the citizens? And why is it that the judicial system seems to forget the victim?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Always.
I mean, they forget the victim, and
The perpetrator becomes the victim.
yeah. I mean, that guy that killed that girl on the train, was it North Carolina?
North Carolina. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what an animal. I mean, 14 times he's been in the custody of police officer, 14 times. And now it took killing this beautiful young girl.
Yeah.
I mean, that's so sad. It just tears me up when you hear something like that. It's just not right. What if it was your daughter?
Well, so one thing I'm curious about from a gubernatorial standpoint is, and I've been saying this for a long time, politicians have always been corrupt. I mean, it's like a long-standing joke, like don't trust a lawyer and know your politicians are corrupt. But we've always thought that our judicial system was good. It's not. Our judicial system is just as corrupt. We have so many horrible judges that are making unconstitutional rulings, as you said, setting people free that have committed heinous crimes within hours. Mm-hmm. How do you clean up the judicial system from the gubernatorial seat?
Well, I've said this for years now on air when I see these judges that, seem to legislate from the bench. Remember what they did in Pennsylvania with how they changed the voting strategies and pretty much cost us the election. But and then they got back out and they reversed it because it was the law should never become a law.
But they knew that ahead of time. They knew it'd buy them time. I mean, they know the system.
Well, yeah, they play the system. So what I just think we got to start impeaching judges, and maybe instead of judges being appointed, maybe they get elected. Because they're not doing their job when they do what they do. Right? If they're not enforcing the Constitution, then I'm sorry, you're out of here. I had an opportunity to meet with Chief Justice John Roberts, which was really, an interesting meeting for me. Here I am, a guy who didn't go to college, talking with one of the leading legal scholars of the world, and we had a 20-minute or so, maybe a little bit longer conversation about a lot of really interesting topics. But the one thing that he said to me, which kind of sticks with me, like each time you meet with a person, you remember that one thing. But was that people think because George W. Bush appointed me that I'm always going to rule in favor of Republicans. He says the law doesn't work like that, and it's true. I mean, the law is the law, and we might not be happy with it when it goes against us, but I mean that's the law. But we don't go burning down buildings and shooting people. We go to prayer, or we go to peaceful protests without any violence, and so. But I walked away from that conversation thinking, well, I just talked with the Chief Justice of the United States Supreme Court, and I walked away unscathed. Right? Because nice guy, super nice guy, and a great and great perspective. We talked about several of the other justices and my questions about him. He was more than willing to answer, which was great. So I mean, I told him, I said, no matter what, there's going to be 50% of the people who like you and 50% of the people that don't. And that's the
same in every category of life.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, look, the judges that are these rogue judges that are out there trying to block Trump or here in Maine that, they rule against, valid cases for political reasons, they got to go. And so, we get to appoint these judges, and some of them you can't just say you're fired, but we can impeach them.
That's the problem. Yeah.
And the only way we impeach them is to have control of the House and the Senate. And, give me the House, the Senate, and the governorship, and then the work will get done. And, people say, well, what are you going to do to help the state of Maine? I said, well, what are you going to do to help the state of Maine? Are you going to step up and are you going to make sure you elect somebody that's going to work with me? Or are you going to just sit on the sidelines? So I said, it's up to every person in the room that I ever talk to get involved, to do their job, do their civic duty to vote and make sure they make a conscious decision on the person they vote based on what they are. And so many times these town councilors and boards of education, you don't know anything about it. It might be somebody's father. I'm going to vote for him. The next turns out to be the worst thing that ever happened, right? So you got to do your homework. I tell people, don't believe what I say, trust but verify, right? Mm-hmm. And do your homework, and it's gotta happen. This is up to not just David Jones or Eric Rice. This is up to every citizen in the United States to say, okay, I've had enough. I want to know. I'm tired of being uninformed. Where do I go to get my information? And so when you're looking and you're reading a newspaper, you're watching a TV show, you're listening to a podcast, whatever your medium is for finding info, what's the motivation of that person or those people that own that? And, so look under the engine. Look under the hood, check what's making that engine run. And I think then we have ignition. We have a society of societies. I think what Trump did is he awoke the sleeping giant. There's a lot of people sleeping, and there are a lot of people that are hurting because they have to work, to pay for their foods and stuff. And they're just don't have the time. They're so tired by the end of the day, they just want to sit on the couch and watch a TV or so and escape reality, right? I get it. Sometimes I do it myself, very rarely. But if I have downtime, I just want to gel, right?
We all need to zone out at some point.
It's nothing wrong with it. But I tell people, if you can't, buy the food you want to buy at the grocery store, you can't fill your car up with gasoline every time you pull up at the pump, or you can't fill the oil or propane up at your house when they come to fill it up, and you got to buy $100 or $500, whatever amount less than what the tanks would tell. And if you can't take a vacation with your kids or your family or friends, once a year, then you're in economic prison. And taxation is an economic prison. And how do you stop taxation? Well, you stop, over taxation by stopping spending. And that's my goal. I'm going to have a DOGE. I call it David's Office of Government Efficiency. All right. And I'm going to use that to knock it out of the park. I mean, it's the real deal. Look, you got to know what's absolutely essential and what's non-essential. You got to get rid of these gimme programs to people that don't deserve them. You got to make sure that people that really need it are getting it. I'm not against helping people help themselves. I mean, hand up was not a handout kind of thing. According to the Bible, right? Teach them how to fish.
Absolutely.
Right? And so
that's the challenge. Is how do you get Maine to a position where companies want to move there, people are prosperous again? It's a pretty high tax state, if I'm recalling right. How do you make those changes that you just talked about? I asked tough questions.
Yeah, energy. It all boils down to energy. Bottom line, I don't care what you're doing. It's energy. Your electric bill, just everything about it. Yeah. Our energy is so expensive here. We had a 36% increase in the past 12 months. The second highest state was 18%. And all the other states are minuscule compared to us. Our cost of energy has just been through the roof. So we got to bring nuclear reactors into play here. We got to get the natural gas pipeline in place so that we have two sources of fuel here in the state of Maine. They fought this. They fought it tooth and nail to have fossil fuel. Hell, they were trying to say we couldn't have cars after a certain date in the state of Maine that ran on fossil fuel.
I remember that.
Good luck with that. All right. But
freedom of choice. Drive whatever car you want. You want to drive an electric? Drive an electric. You want to drive gas? Drive gas. It's your choice. Yeah.
It's absolutely our choice.
And nuclear reactors, though, David, the nuclear reactors are billions of dollars and take a long time to build. So is that an initiative that you'll start with right away? Because
absolutely.
These things they're not easy to put up.
Well, so these are small, like they're using in France, modular nuclear reactors, right? They're smaller, they're easy to put into place. We have a couple of facilities here in Maine, one right by my house. It was a nuclear plant at the time. And these things are extremely safe. It's amazing how safe they are. They've had them in submarines for 50, 60 years. Never, ever, ever have they had an instance, right? So, we need to take that ability that we have and put it here in the state of Maine. And once we do, then our energy bills are going to go down, incredible. We had a 100 megawatt cap coming out of hydro, Canadian, out of Canada. We need to increase the cap. These are common sense things. But these guys would go around blowing the tops off of mountains and putting these damn windmills that I can't stand looking at. It's, as far as I'm concerned, it's view pollution.
They don't work.
They don't work. and they spew oil, they kill birds, and all these people that say they care about the world. Oh, but there's only so many. If
Most
there's
of them are
one,
using gasoline generators to turn the turbine. Like they're a complete fraud. And if you actually done any research, they're complete fraud. And
then the
nuclear
solar
got a
field.
bad rap in the 60s and nobody gave it another shot. Nuclear is the way to go. And you
Yeah,
guys, building pipelines, everything has been demonized that's good for us and effective and cheap. So that's a battle you'll have to fight, because Maine does have a very significant climate change coalition. There are a lot of climate change crazies up there. How do you fight through that nonsense?
well, Planet Janet is going to be gone. All right, so that's done. All right, so that's like cutting
you
off
cut the head
top
off the snake.
one of those mountains, right? Right. So there's number one, and then you got to stop the people that she has, that are running, that are of her ilk. People, look, I don't have anything against alternative fuels.
Neither do I.
Alternative energy. I have zero problem. Just don't make me pay for it. If the private market will not pay for it, then it doesn't work. If you need subsidies, we subsidize all these things, solar fields, and these damn solar. They irk me. They'll clean.
EVs are heavily subsidized. Yeah.
What's that?
EVs are heavily subsidized. To actually recharge your battery is, if you paid for it on your own without government subsidies, is 4 times the amount that it would cost for gasoline. It's ridiculous.
There you go. And then you look at the energy that goes into building these things on top of it, right?
Oh, yeah.
And, so you've seen those analyses that are out there about.
I was in oil and gas for years. Yeah. I used to give presentations on how I was in oil and gas for years. So I used to give presentations on how fraudulent the misrepresentation of EVs are. 13 years of carbon emissions from all the energy used just to build the battery. 13 years of full driving capacity before the car even hits the market.
Think about that, and look at the holes, the cavities the craters they cause on Earth to get to the lithium, right? I mean, it's stupid. I'm all for experimentation. I'm all for trying to make it a better place, a cleaner place, But bottom line is the world isn't coming to an end. What these environmentalists have done is they turned it into an industry that they make money off of.
Of course.
I always say, follow the money. Look at the Al Gores of the world. You look at these people. The world's coming to an end. The polar bears are dying. The icebergs are melting. But wait a minute. Oh, you mean the icebergs are going? And the polar bear population is thriving and growing. I mean, it's just bizarre. But you know what? The media is complicit in this. And this is where people like yourself with your podcast can help. You get it out there to those folks. This is clean information. It's not filtered. It's just me and you having a conversation about what we think and what we know. Then you have to go and do your homework and find out if anything I said is not true. I mean,
always do your own research. Absolutely.
Yeah. Do the homework. And if people do, and I think we're at that point, don't you?
I go back and forth on this all the time. There's levels of awake, right? There's people, I'm awake and I'm ready. There's levels. And I think we have a lot of people hitting level 1. I think that's great that they're not certain that reality is reality. I think the deeper you go, the more you realize reality is absolutely not reality. And I'm pretty far down that. I restrain it quite a bit. But at the same time, until we fix the financial issues in this country, I don't know that people have enough time to actually do the homework. That's a really big restraint for most of the population. I think if they had an extra hour or so that they would, I don't know if they'd use it right. But I think there's a conglomerate of people who are really passionate about this, like you and I, and we kind of lead that charge, and it becomes infectious to everyone else. And if we can get good leaders that'll relieve economic burdens, I think that's when you see a flourishing of people actually doing the homework. It's hard. It's hard to, I'm blessed like you. I live in a nice place and I don't worry about food day to day, but that's not 70% of the country is. 70% of our country can't afford a $1,000 emergency expense. Until that happens, I don't know how awake we'll be. Just being honest with you, David.
I agree. I want to put money back in people's pockets, not in government's pockets. I want to curb spending with government. I think government's way too big. My mantra has always been smaller government, lower taxes, and support small businesses. All right. I'm a small business relative to the world. And, the bottom line for me is my money's better in my pocket. Anytime I got to write a check to government, I'm sorry. It's better. It's better in my
Might as well light it on fire.
And then you look at circular economics, and how people, what happens when people get paid, it goes into all just paying their insurance company, putting gas in their car, filling their oil tank, going grocery shopping, that's the way it's supposed to work. the idea that government is the answer, I'm sorry, it's not. It's the problem. Like a great guy once said a long time ago. But the bottom line is that if we band together and we work as a unit and we have a cohesive message, we can do this. We can make it happen. And I believe in people. I believe in the American spirit. The last four letters of American are I can. Right.
Yeah.
Right. So
you know what it says in the middle though? It says says Eric in the middle.
Oh, good one. Only you, somebody with the name Eric would pick that out. But great, fantastic one. Good. I'll remember that.
Can't have America without Eric.
Yeah, can't have America with Eric. Eric Rice in particular, right?
If I ever run, that'll be my motto.
Yeah, there you go. Can't have America without Eric Rice. Yeah, but no, the Eric Rices of the world, they make the difference because you take your time. Like you said, you're doing this because you care. And I'm doing this because I care. This is not like an egotistical kind of thing. I want to be governor. This is, hey, look, I'm at a point in my life where I can do this, and I'm the guy that's qualified to do the job. And just like you're qualified to do what you're doing, and so we carry that baton. We work all we can to try and get people to listen and understand that there are good people in this world that really do care about who they are, who you are, and what you need in your life. And the only way you're going to get it is by supporting people who care about what you care about. And when you elect someone and they go, whether it's to Augusta or Washington, D.C., and they do something that you don't want, then just don't vote for them again.
Yeah.
I mean, it's simple as that. You do have power. You have the power of the vote. It's a God-given right. It's an inalienable right. I'm sorry. You can stop the tyranny. And look, in Boston Tea Party, that was over a half-cent tax or something, right? We got 30%. Yeah, we got $37 trillion deficit. I mean, we spend $1 trillion a year on interest, over $1 trillion a year.
Yeah,
I mean, on interest. So this isn't the way it was supposed to be. Hell, when I was a kid, trillion didn't even exist. It was never in a discussion.
Well, we've added $2 trillion to that budget in the last 7 months.
Yeah,
$2 trillion. Yeah. $2 trillion has been added, a number that is unfathomable a decade ago. No one was using the word trillion a decade ago.
No, it wasn't a word.
It was an imaginary thing, and now it's $2 trillion during Trump's administration. $2 trillion. Yeah, so it just shows how difficult things are, and I think that we've got to have good people doing good things, or we have to completely stop acknowledging the system. Those are the only two ways that we go through this. So, David, I'm in your corner. I'm in your corner. I think that, I think a lot of people have lost faith in our voting system, which 2020 was a big piece of that. Which is sad. Well, it's by design. I mean, of course, everybody wanted that. That's what some people wanted, right? But at the same time, I've been a big advocate for years. Get involved local, and I think that the more local people you support, that's your neighborhood. If you don't know who's running things in your neighborhood, you're going to get taken astray. And as a governor, I hope that you highlight a lot of those people doing really good things, and I hope that, because I think you're going to win. I think you're going to win. And I think that that's going to be a great thing for the state of Maine to have a normal guy who's actually been really successful, who, like you said before, you've got things shored up now. And that's a big problem in politics, is that very young people get involved. They don't have financial stability. And then that's when you start seeing people enter, it's not necessarily the local governments or state, but federal. You have people who are worth $100,000. Obama is a great example. He's worth like $500,000 before he's president. Now he's worth $150 million.
Yeah, and now he's worth millions and millions of dollars. Right. Nancy Pelosi,
greatest trader of all time.
A website up about her husband, for God's sake, like he's this god in trading. Yeah. Right. So I don't know. I mean, these people are criminals as far as I'm concerned. They're criminals. They're looting us. They're taking advantage of their positions. There was a thing by Davy Crockett. Davy Crockett was. Yeah. And it's
King of the Wild Frontier.
Yeah, well, he was also a congressman.
Yes,
right? And there was something wrote, "Not yours to give." I encourage anybody to read that, and but it's really interesting because that's where welfare started, and welfare is when they're taking taxpayer money and giving it to selected people. I'm not against helping those people. I want to help.
People need help.
I grew up with my mom used to go to the fire department, and she would have, the government cheese and the powdered milk. I hated it. All right, but we had to live. And at Christmas time, we get the toys from the fire department. My parents didn't have a lot of money. They had 5 kids, and it was tough. They were working people, and so I know what it's like. But I know how I saw the look on my mom's face when she would go up and get these things, because there's people that she knew giving them to her. And she was embarrassed, right? And they worked their tail off to raise the 5 of us, and they raised 5 great kids that get it and self-sufficient. All people that just want to be, good people, good Americans, and
live their life.
And so whatever it was that motivated me to get to this point, I think it was the fact that I didn't want to be in a position in life where I, had to ask for something. And running for governor is really tough for me, because now I have to ask people to donate to my campaign, right? And
let's do that. How can people support your campaign, David?
Well, they can go to jones2026.com. We have a donate button right on the upper right-hand corner. You can donate. The maximum donation is $2,075 for the primary, and the same for the general. But anything, $5, $10, $100, $250, $500, $1,000, whatever people can afford. We got to raise the money to fight the fight. It's important. I'd say it's the gasoline that runs the car, right? Money, it runs the campaigns. I'll be able to do it with less money than the average guy, because I know the value of $1 and I know what to spend it on. Having written and signed the front of the check my entire life. So I'm very conscious and very humbled by people that are donating to my campaign. It's a big thing to give somebody money. I've done it throughout my life, helped other politicians. I don't look at myself as a politician yet, but I guess I am. It's something you wrestle with.
You're thrust into it now.
Yeah, you call me what you want, just make sure I get elected, because I'll do a damn good job, and it's important.
I believe that
we get people with the fortitude, the capacity and the willingness to do it, and they're doing it for the right reason. And I'm doing this for my family. I'm doing it for my friends. I'm doing it for people in the state of Maine that I care about. I'm doing it for the state. I just think that I'm willing to spend the next 4 or 8 years of my life making this a better place. And it's all about that. It's all about.
I believe you, David, and I'm one who will call out people I think are BSing me, and I believe you. I think you're going to do a great job. Another thing I have to throw in here, because a lot of Bitcoiners watch the show. You have a built-in Bitcoin strategic reserve advocate in the family, right?
Yes, I do. My son John Logan, he's really good. He was Air Force intelligence. So he was a cryptologist, right? He was a Pashto airborne cryptologist. So he learned the Arabic language, and really smart kid. I don't know where he got it from, but a good kid. And
must have been mom.
Yeah, he's 39 years old, and he's has 3 children and lives a great life. And Bitcoin has been very good to him. And it's good to see that, what makes me sick about this, Eric. I'll tell you a funny story. When I was a kid in 7th grade, I was always in trouble. So I had the teacher.
I can't imagine that. That, David.
So Mr. McNabb was my teacher, and we were studying stocks, and he was saying to David, go home, tell your parents, sell everything they have, everything. He says, and buy this stock, and it's $1.50 a share. It was IBM. All right. So I go home and I tell my mom and dad, look, you should go sell everything. You sell your cars, and buy this stock, right? And tell Mr. McNabb, we said, thanks, but we got to, they didn't have any money, right? But had they done that, right, it would have been incredible. Their life would have changed. So my son, John, he's in the United States Air Force at the time, and he was telling me, Dad, you need to buy this stuff. It's like $10 Bitcoin. I'm like, John. He said, no.
I didn't listen back then either, so don't feel bad.
Yeah, and so then it got to be where it was $50 and $100 and then $500. I'm like, so maybe I should buy some. I bought some, I think at $300 and $500, and then he always handles. I don't have nothing to do with that. But then he said, why don't you just take $50,000? It was at $500 a coin, and buy Bitcoin. And I had the money. I could have done that, right?
Yeah. Same with me. I didn't do it then either. Yeah, I got
Of
much
all the
later.
people, though, Eric, think about that.
He was your Mr. McNabb.
I had Mr. McNabb that told me, and I didn't realize it until it was too late. And I think about it, and my son's just now he's like, "Yeah, I told you so." So I don't have the Bitcoin wealth, but so many other people do that.
You did well for yourself either way.
Yeah, it was a portion of thereof, right? But it's amazing to see it's at what 110, 112,000 or something.
Yeah, roughly.
Bitcoin was at 124 last week, and gold's at like 4,300. Silver's at $50 an ounce. I mean, things are happening. And I don't know if we're going to convert to a digital currency, and I'm not big about that. I like having dollars and cents, and maybe
gold.
They
provide privacy.
Yeah, privacy, and then the ability of government to shut you off, right? So
well, that's Bitcoin. That can't happen with Bitcoin. That's
with Bitcoin, they can't touch us, right?
Right.
It's great, but where's it going to go worldwide? There's countries, South America. What's that? Malay, is it his name, or
Argentina? Yeah. Argentina, El Salvador is very friendly to it.
Their whole countries based on Bitcoin.
It's a good collateral asset to save the state. That's what people are looking at. Build a treasury with some gold. I'm a gold and Bitcoin guy. I hate Bitcoiners who talk about, oh no, gold's outdated. Gold's not outdated. It's never going to be outdated.
No.
Never.
See it, feel it, touch it. Something about seeing and feeling and touching it, right? I have some gold and I have some silver, and but the Bitcoin's amazing. It really is. What's happened there to see it at $110,000 a coin, just it didn't take
a reason for it. There's a reason. That's great. Well, David, so you answered all my questions, and I think the Bitcoin audience in Maine is going to love hearing that you have knowledge of this, because that's really the key. It's people have different opinions about it. I argue with them all the time. Everyone has their opinion about things, and that's your absolute right as an American. And but you should have an opinion with knowledge. If you don't have knowledge, you shouldn't have an opinion, right? That's important. So, David, I'm rooting for you. I think you're going to win this thing. I hope the state of Maine turns around. I absolutely love your energy, your passion. You just shoot it the way it is, and that's all we want. That's all politics should be. Yeah, make it simple. Well, David, so they go to jones2026.com, make contributions, get out to the campaign. People in Maine, help this campaign. This is, we talk about our rights all the time. As Americans, our rights, these are our rights. What about our responsibilities? Those are the two things that come together. Rights and responsibilities are in every contract you'll ever sign, including the one where you are an American citizen. So hope all of you watch this video, that you see David out there. We'll be rooting for you here. Let's get you back on before the campaign in a couple months, see how things are going after you win the primary, which you should, and we'll push you as best we possibly can, man.
Well, thank you so much, Kirk. And it's been a pleasure being here. Pleasure meeting you. And I hope that one of these days I'll let you meet my son, John, too. You and him and have a good conversation. All right.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Well, David, thank you so much. And God bless you in your campaign. God bless this country. We'll see you next time on the Rice Report. Have a good one, everybody.
God bless you. Talk to you later.